So some interesting Funko news popped up the other day where an investor that owns about 10% of Funko shares now actually recommended that they sell the company. Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about just like current Funko news, I guess. It's a little bit about stock stuff, how the company's doing, some changes that investors want them to make. So again, it's mostly just about how Funko's doing right now and some things that are coming up that will tell us if the company's doing well into 2026 so far. Now, as I mentioned before, there is an investor that owns about 10% of Funko shares, around 5.5 million, and that's valued at around $29 million. But anyways, a hedge fund called Pleasant Lake Partners, they bought in about 10% of Funko, and then they actually recommended that Funko change some things up. And they actually wanted to meet with the board of directors over at Funko, or, people in charge there, and suggest things that would make the company more valuable or do better, or a possibility of selling the company, which I found pretty interesting. I did actually mention this a while back, that this would be one of Funko's options in the future, when that whole doom and gloom article was going around. And then it spread to other news outlets. It was originally out by Dextro, however you say their name, Dextro. But basically they put out an article saying that Funko probably wouldn't last another year. That's basically what they were saying. And while Funko did specifically mention this in one of their, I think it was the SEC filings they did last year, it wasn't as cut and dry as that news outlet was making it. There are a lot more factors to it, and I explained this in my previous video. But anyways, I mentioned that if things were getting worse, a possibility of a sale could happen. Now, as to who would buy Funko, I have no idea. Maybe another toy company, if that was even allowed. And I only say that because there's monopoly rules as to why certain companies can't buy other companies, just so they can't control that specific market on toys and all that. It happens all the time, especially in the media industry. That's why there's the whole situation with Netflix, Paramount, and Warner Brothers. But hypothetically, let's say Funko does choose to sell if things aren't going as planned, if they can't continue paying off their debt, which is around $200 million, by the way, due to multiple choices, overproduction, just poor judgment in, licensing and producing and all that. But anyways, let's say they do sell. Again, who would even buy the company? Who would be able to buy the company? Their current valuation as a company as a whole is around $560 million, and they do about $1 billion in sales yearly. Depending on the year, sometimes it's higher than that, but roughly it's about $1 billion in sales. But consider this, that companies all the time sell for much higher than they're actually worth. I mean, in this case, Funko's doing not as good because they have $200 million in debt, but it's pretty interesting because I think Funko as a company is super valuable. They have over 1,000 active licenses, as Josh Simon, the current CEO, just stated in an interview with Variety the other day over at Toy Fair. And those licensing deals with big companies like Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, other things under Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and all that, that's one of the main reasons why I just didn't think a company like Funko could just go out of business. Even though a lot of people were like, oh my God, aren't they going out of business? People are still making those doom and gloom articles all these months later. I just saw one pop up today, actually, because of the new stock reports and all that. I'm like, why are we still doing this? Do we not have anything else to write about? There's other things you can look at here too, as in, would they sell the entire company or would they just sell portions of the company if they went that route? They could just up and sell Loungefly if they needed money, for example. Loungefly is one of the more profitable branches of the company, given its ties to Disney especially. They could also consider selling Mondo, which is their kind of other higher tier collectible company they acquired a few years back. Honestly, they don't even really do anything with Mondo. I don't really see Mondo ads. I don't really see the company talk about it much, other than they make appearances at big Comic Cons like New York Comic Con as well as SDCC. They have booths there. They really praise it, and then I just don't feel like they ever do anything with the company. I just personally think Funko doesn't do enough with that company to even warrant Funko owning them, so they'd be better off just selling it. Other things you can consider is whoever would acquire Funko if they sold the entire company is what changes would be made? Would they stop making as much as Funko normally does? Because as you know, Funko, the whole idea here is it's fun for everybody, so they make something for everybody. So would a sale of the company cut off us getting really random licenses like we do of like really old movies that, you know, it may be a small fan base of, but there are fans of it and Funko tries to cater to them. Would it cut off that production line to things like that? So there's definitely a lot of things to consider with selling a company as big as Funko, especially all the sub companies they have under it, Loungefly, Mondo, etc. So I don't really know what would happen to a company like Funko if they were bought out and what changes would be made. But anyways, as to the main point, this hedge fund that invested that much money into Funko and bought 5.5 million shares, they want Funko to explore the option to sell solely because they obviously want to make their money back and then some, and they believe that Funko is super undervalued as they stated. Which granted, if you've been paying attention to their stock price in the last like 2.5, 3 months almost since the year began, the stock has nearly doubled. Now, recent news raised it up a lot with that investor group putting so much money into Funko and buying 5.5 million shares, so that has a lot to do with it recently, and their suggestions of a possible sale of Funko. I'm very curious to see what happens in their next earnings call. That's taking place on March 5th, just in about 2 weeks here. That's going to give us an outlook on what happened at the end of quarter 4 for 2025 and leading into 2026. The current CEO, Josh Simon, he seems to have a very positive outlook on Funko. If you read his Variety interview recently from Toy Fair, he seems very positive about the future. That's the best way I can put it. And the reason I say that, if you read from this article, the interviewer asked him the question of basically like, oh, well, I collect Funko Pops. The interviewer saying this, I collect Funko Pops and I find myself running out of room. And also kind of like subtly mentioning the fact that a lot of people don't have a lot of money right now to actively continue buying collectibles like this. But the main portion was running out of room because they make so much of everything all the time. They never stop with certain licenses like One Piece, for example. But Josh seemed very optimistic that people would find space for those specific collectibles. Like if they want it, they will find space for it. Sometimes that really is not how that works because, you know, when you run out of space, you run out of space. It's one of those things where you just have to get rid of a collection in place of a new one. And that's what I do actively all the time. My collection is a fraction of what it used to be in the last 2-3 years. Believe me when I say that, a fraction in value, a fraction in size, exclusivity, chases. I realized if I want to continue collecting and I don't want to own 10,000 pops, I have to make specific choices and just focus on things I really, truly do love. So I understand it from that point of view, like you will figure it out. But also consider that not everybody has the space to continuously keep collecting Funko Pops because they take up a lot of space, even at the 4-inch ones. You get 100 of those things, you're filling up a wall pretty fast. So I thought it was an optimistic point of view, but it also felt a little out of touch in the same sense. Anyways, though, he seems super optimistic about his role in Funko and, you know, creating more fun, creating more products. He's super proactive about getting new licenses as soon as possible, which I love. I think that's going to create a lot of valuation of Funko, especially in the coming years, in terms of trying to turn things around over at Funko. So I like his optimism there. I like that he's trying to focus on getting things out quicker and quicker. It's just one of those things where we're going to have to wait and see. He's only about 6 months into the job at Funko, and he was handed such a broken company, unfortunately, that, you know, he has 3 years as the agreement that he signed to put back together, or, you know, however much time. If he doesn't do a good job, they'll probably kick him out soon. I don't know, you know, so it's interesting, but I like that he's optimistic. I like that he's trying to put his heart and soul into reviving this company. I really do think the next earnings call in March is going to kind of tell us a lot about how things are going to progress throughout 2026. Because remember, a lot of people have a very negative look at Funko right now because of those articles going around, the super doom and gloom ones. I get the comments all the time when I make a video. Didn't Funko go out of business? Why are they still making this? Aren't they going out of business? I get those comments weekly at this point. Almost to the point where I just ignore them because like I'm tired of explaining that article was clickbait but not clickbait at the same time. Like there's a lot to understand there. There's a lot to unpack. That's kind of your update for today. I just kind of want to let you guys know that was going around of a looming possible sale if Funko goes that direction. They didn't comment. Funko, let me mention this. Funko didn't comment on the fact that if they would sell or what this investor group was saying that owns so much of them now. But if something changes with that, maybe in their next earnings call, because I know someone's probably going to ask a question about that, because there's other investors that, go in those meetings and ask a bunch of questions. If something changes, I'll let you guys know if they explore that option, because that would be pretty crazy if Funko just decides to up and sell. So we'll see. But for now, let me know what you guys think about Funko right now as a company. Do you think they're doing better since they've gotten the new CEO in the last like half year? Are you liking the new products they're putting out? It seems like Toy Fair was pretty successful over at New York and London. They did tease a lot of really great lines coming. We still haven't seen some for more of their popular ones like Avengers Doomsday. We have Supergirl movie pops coming up. And then, Toy Story 5. Is it 5? Yeah, Toy Story 5 and a bunch of other projects. So, those could be really great sellers for Funko in 2026. But yeah, guys, I just want to catch you up on current events with Funko as a company, what's being said and all that, just to kind of keep you guys lightly updated. I know these videos aren't always super fun and they're a little boring, but I know a lot of you guys really enjoy these kind of updates. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Funko as a company right now and where they're headed into the future. All right, I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. See you guys later. Bye.